Hi everyone, it's me, Sierra, the pool toy, and I'm here today recording in November with the Thanksgiving holiday coming up. Some people will think about spending time with extended family. Other people will think about the one time of the year where you're going to eat turkey. I like to think about it for its namesake, which is giving thanks, and just trying to have some gratitude about the way things are in my life. Because it's pretty easy to get stuck in the dumps, looking at situations and thinking that everything's gone wrong, that everything is miserable, that nothing is good. But I bet if you really tried, you'd be able to identify at least a few things that you could stand to be grateful for. Now, why do we want to cultivate this attitude of gratitude? I'm glad you asked. And it's because maintaining this mindset of looking for things to be thankful for actually significantly helps with depression. Your brain filters out all kinds of information all day and all night. And if your filter is only letting through the bad things that are happening in your life, you're gonna be less happy. You could even be very depressed. But if you actually start to look for things that you can be grateful for, things that are positive in your lives, things that sort of make you feel even just a little bit better, that sort of changes the filter in your brain. And so you start to be able to notice these things even more in your daily life. And then suddenly not everything is negative. And it even changes things like the structure of your brain. I mean, apparently UC Berkeley and Harvard, they've done studies on this stuff, and just keeping a little gratitude journal will increase your brain matter. Your depression will decrease. The parts of your brain that affect things like dopamine actually become more active. And that's just so wild, because it really is just a matter of changing your perspective. Or at least working on changing your perspective. And then you'll actually start to notice more good things in your life and you'll be happier. And of course, doing those things improves your life in other ways. Like, you'll probably start to sleep a little bit better if you're not so stressed out and freaked out. Not to mention a little bit less stressed in your life when you start to notice that there's good things all over the place. So this is sort of why it's so important to be able to, look at these things in your life and really try to start changing your perspective a little bit. Fine. I guess I'll try this attitude of gratitude that you speak so highly of. What's the worst that can happen? Well, I'm glad you asked. The worst thing that can happen is nothing changes and you stay miserable. But you actually stand a much greater chance of being less depressed, experiencing more happiness in your life, noticing more of the good things that are present around you. Now, how do we do this? Well, it's pretty straightforward. What you need to do is you just need to grab a piece of paper, a journal, a notepad, any of those things, and when you go to lay down in bed for the night, to go to sleep, what you need to do is you need to write 3 things that you can be thankful for. That's it, just 3. Now, remember, we're changing the filter in our brain, which has only been letting through the bad things. So don't be surprised if it's actually difficult to pick 3 things to be grateful for as you're starting this out. That's why I suggest maybe even just picking some really nebulous things. You can pick, I'm grateful I have a bed. I'm grateful I have shelter. I'm grateful I had breakfast this morning. And it's very straightforward, but not too specific of the things that you can be thankful for. And you'll notice over time that things actually become more specific. I'm thankful that work went by really quick today because I was busy. I am thankful for this friend who told me a funny joke today. I am thankful for my Twitch channel, which has plenty of awesome fans. and it's been going strong. I'm thankful for you watching my YouTube video. There's a lot of things that you can come up with, but just by maintaining a habit like this, you will start to notice more of the good things in your life, because your brain will actually start looking for things, saying, oh, I can write that in my gratitude journal later. Oh, I can write that one in my gratitude journal later. And as you work on this, you'll really notice all the cool stuff that's actually going on in your life that you can be grateful for. Yes, there are definitely going to be many of us who are on harder times than others, and so it could be more difficult. But every day, yes, you're going to find at least 3 things. What about using this attitude of gratitude to deepen our relationships with other people? Yes, it can be done. Maybe you're thinking of a family member who you love very much. It could be a friend who's really awesome, who's you're just happy to have in your life and you have fun with. When was the last time you ever sent something like a little note of appreciation for having this person in your life? It could be something like, hey, I had a great time when last time we were chatting together. I thought it was really funny when you did this. And I think you're awesome. Hopefully we can hang out again soon. A very simple thing. But now imagine that the roles were reversed. This person who you care about randomly sent you a note that talks about how you're a good friend, about something positive about your personality or something you did that they appreciated. How would that make you feel toward that person? My guess, it'd probably feel pretty great. And so that's why, in this age where sort of direct emotional communication seems to be in, rare order, we can still take time out and express at least a little bit of thanks for the people who are there. And it doesn't just have to be about a really significant person in your life. This could be a coworker where, they do something really tiny for you. And you just, as you're passing by, you're like, hey, thanks for taking care of that thing for me. And just being able to express thanks for even the small things. Because who knows, maybe they'll just want to jump in and help you with one of the big things, just because they know that they're appreciated even in the tiny things. So it's not just the most important people in your life. It could be much less important people in your life. The food server at the restaurant, who normally you might not give a second glance to until they bring your food. Just saying thanks to them. It could be thanking the security guard at the door of the store that you're going into and just saying like, hey, thanks for being here. Anything like that. And it's just sort of a general spreading thing, even if you don't get anything back directly. You've at least helped somebody else's day. So what did we learn? Well, we learned that having an attitude of gratitude is awesome. It does make you less depressed as you sort of open up the filter on your brain that's only been letting in the bad stuff. And now you start to let in the good things in your life, and you really start to notice the positive stuff that's going on around you. And it doesn't even take much to get started. You just grab a piece of paper, a journal, and just as you're going to bed, write down 3 things that, were a positive in your day that you can be thankful for. And it's no coincidence that every time this is mentioned, it's usually mentioned before bed. And that's because when you focus on the positive stuff in your life as you're going to sleep, you're going to sleep better. Isn't that awesome? So, try to work on that a little bit. And even on the roughest days, you'll still find something positive to think about. And what about your friends and family? Well, expressing appreciation to others is great too. They'll feel better because you've expressed some thanks that they are who they are. Maybe they're having their own bad day, and that really helps them. Or it could be, the random stranger who you just sort of walk by. but maybe they're doing something that's cool. And you're able to sort of express thanks for that. And, why don't we start right now with one of the exercises? So, if you go down and you check my little comment section, I want to see one thing. One thing. I want you to post one thing that you are grateful for. And I look forward to reading it. So remember, attitude of gratitude, Thanksgiving, and I want you to have a happy Thanksgiving. Okay? Thank you.